At this point, I think it can be considered a hobby of mine to test out tablets. I've been doing it for years on my channel, and I'm always pumped when a company asks me to work with them. But I was watching YouTube while getting some work done, as I often do, when I got an ad for the Magic Notepad by XPPen, and immediately I knew I needed it. So, for the first time probably in my life, I reached out to a person. I messaged XPPen trying not to sound too desperate when I asked them if they'd like to work with me. And they said yes. To be clear, they sent me their Magic Notepad for free to review in this video, but this video is not sponsored. They aren't paying me to say anything in this video, and all opinions are my own. This tablet is advertised as a tool for artists, but also for non-artists. It's supposed to be a great tool for people like students and various professionals for things like studying, note-taking, brainstorming, attending virtual classes or meetings, and even streaming videos, TV shows, and movies. I'll be focusing on more of the art-related stuff in this video, specifically for final illustrations and comic work, but a lot of the things I'll be showing off can also be used for non-art purposes. So without further ado, let's unbox this thing. As soon as you open the box, the first thing you see is the tablet itself, followed by the case that attaches itself to the tablet via magnets. Next is the pen, which also clings to the tablet with magnets, additional pen nibs, and the typical booklets. It also, of course, comes with a charger. If you're like me, you immediately noticed it doesn't come with a glove of any sort. I wanted to mention this up front because I do use a glove throughout the video, but it is one that I already had. The tablet itself is about 7 by 10 inches with a working area of about 6 by 9 inches. And with a large range of pressure sensitivity and a screen made to reduce glare, it's supposed to mimic using a real pen or pencil on paper. It also has a front camera, a mic, speakers, and is powered by Android. The website also goes in depth with specs like refresh rate and power input, which are all things that go right over my head when looking at technology, but maybe they mean something to you. Another key selling point for the Magic Notepad is the 3 different display modes. By pressing the button next to the power button, you can switch between natural color, light color, and ink paper. Natural color displays the colors with their original brightness and saturation, light color shows the colors in a more muted palette, and ink paper gets rid of color altogether. I wanted to be sure to mention these 3 different modes right away because I, admittedly, don't really use them much. As an artist, I typically want colors to be displayed as they are without being changed, but I can also acknowledge that this is a great feature for people who primarily use this for reading, studying, and note-taking, so then you don't completely destroy your eyes by looking at bright colors on a screen all day. But for better or for worse, my job is looking at bright colors on a screen all day, so I didn't really use these. All in all, the Magic Notepad comes out to a total of about $440 US at its original price. Setting up the device was as straightforward as following the prompts on the screen, and you can even link your Google accounts to it. This was huge for me since I rely on stuff like that for work pretty heavily. Everything was super quick and smooth, and I was using the tablet before I knew it.
If I drop my pen, then I just truly have no excuse.
The tablet came with an app by XPPen pre-installed, and I will go in depth about it soon, but I was just very eager to test out my typical drawing programs, so downloading them and testing them out was the first thing I did. First, I tested out Infinite Painter, which is the drawing program I had installed on my phone. It's been a while since I used it, so it took a moment to remember what I was doing, but after that, everything worked just as intended. The pen was calibrated very well, and the pressure sensitivity worked great. I won't go too in-depth with this program since it's not what this video is about, but it's a pretty great and robust program for how cheap it is. I do want to mention that even though I'm using a tablet with a pen, Infinite Painter is technically and pretty strictly a mobile app. As such, the brushes work as if you're using your finger or universal stylus instead of a pen with pressure sensitivity, meaning that all of the width variation and pressure opacity had to be mimicked in brush settings. This has nothing to do with the Magic Notepad and everything to do with Infinite Painter, but I wanted to mention that in case anyone out there is planning to use a similar program with this tablet. I don't have the money to afford a Clip Studio monthly plan, but since that's what I use on my PC, I wanted to quickly test how it works with this for possible future use. And I'm happy to report that the pens and brushes work exactly as they do on my computer, and actually registers that I'm using a tablet with a pen instead of my finger. A lot of other drawing apps are available and compatible with a Magic Notepad, but I simply do not have the time to go over each and every one of them for this video. But it is safe to assume that as long as you're using a software similar to Clip Studio, pen pressure sensitivity should work just fine. I don't have a good segue to the next topic, so let's talk about XPPen Notes, the program that is heavily advertised with this tablet. It's mostly shown to be a study / note-taking / brainstorming app, but I also wanted to see what it could do for artists. Spoilers, this isn't an app you can make finished illustrations with, but that's not to say it doesn't have its uses. A neat little feature with this tablet is that you can hold down the button on the pen and double tap the screen, and even if the screen is asleep, you can open the XPPen Notes app. And if the screen is awake, you can even customize this little menu in the corner with whatever app you use most frequently. Opening the app, the first thing you see is probably the files going over how to use the program both as is and with how to edit PDFs, which I can definitely recommend looking over, especially if you plan on using this for schoolwork. You can take notes by either clicking the Quick Notes button, or you can click the plus button at the bottom to customize your pages more. Each note is treated like its own notebook, complete with a cover that you can customize, and you can pick which page template works best for you and add as many pages as you need. And don't worry, you can add more pages as you go along if you need to. I didn't film any of this, but you can also mix and match page templates within the file you're working on, and even upload your own if none of the pre-made ones work for you. I have pretty specific needs for a monthly / weekly planner, so I did exactly that and made a blank planner file that I can copy and edit with each month that goes by. I made a note with beige graph paper, I just thought it looked neat, and immediately took to testing out the different tools. I skimmed the tutorial file, but like the average person with ADHD, I couldn't stand to sit down and read, so I was going in pretty blind. I wanted to mention that because even though going in knowing nothing about the program, it was pretty easy to figure out on my own. I was very eager to try out the different brushes since it's supposed to copy real-life writing materials. I'm gonna be honest, the two pens just feel like typical digital art pens, and while the tapered one has nice size variation, they really didn't feel like anything special. But the pencil, my god. I've used a lot of different pencil tools that attempt to mimic real pencils, and they've been good, but I've always felt that they were just that, a digital tool attempting to look traditional. This pencil, though, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little obsessed with it. I've never used a pencil tool that feels so much like the real thing, and I love it so much that I think this is going to be my go-to app for simple sketches and thumbnailing. There isn't a layer feature, which makes sense since this is more to replicate real-life notebooks, but it's a great app to sketch with regardless. If you go to the settings of the pencil tool, you can toggle the pen tilt on and off. With it on, it feels much more like a classic wood pencil, and with it off, it works much more like a mechanical pencil. But both of them work incredibly well, and I'm in love with them. If there's any critique I have about the tools, it would be that I wish there were more eraser options. When I sketch traditionally, I use my pencil to block out the general layout, use a kneaded eraser to lighten it, then add the details on top of that. I tried to do something similar here, but the eraser really only has two options. Use it, or don't use it. I tried ways around this, but there also isn't any way to use the pens or pencil as an eraser, so the best thing I can do was use the highlighter tool with the same color as the paper and go over it a few times. This worked fine in the program, but when I exported that page, the highlighter was suddenly on top of everything, even though I drew on top of the highlighter. It looks fine in the program, so if it's ever really an issue, I guess I could just screenshot the page instead of exporting it, but it was something that I wanted to mention regardless. This is all great, but I want to talk about the main reason I wanted this tablet for myself: webcomic work. When you go to make a new note, you have the option Unlimited Drafts. With this option, your page template choices are a lot more limited, but I knew exactly what I wanted to use this feature for. If you couldn't figure it out by now, I have a webcomic. Webcomics are a long scrolling format, so doesn't this feature look perfect for making comic thumbnails? As of making this video, I'm still working on chapter 3, but I knew I wanted to try thumbnailing a chapter, so consider this a treat as I work on a scene from chapter 4. This scene is the only thing I've thumbnailed with this feature, but I can already tell this is probably going to be my go-to way to thumbnail chapters. Since you can just endlessly scroll without hitting a size limit, it's perfect for thumbnailing webcomics. You can just make your thumbnail as long as it needs to be and add more as you go. And it's also perfect for adding the bits of dialogue to the side of it, and if you need to make any more annotations as you work. I do wish there were more exporting options for this feature. At the moment, the only file option is the file type for this program, but the Unlimited Drafts is also listed as an experimental feature, so I'm hoping they're able to update this in the future so it's more convenient to share what you make with this format. Overall though, I think this app is great. At this point, I have the entire plot of my comic worked out, which is great for me, but bad for this video, since I can't really show how I would use it to brainstorm comic ideas. But whenever I get around to working on my other stories, I can definitely see myself using both the unlimited drafts feature and the regular notes features. And during that time, I'll also be able to make use of the other features, like speech to text, handwriting to text, and some of the various shapes in the shape tools. And if I'm ever able to get over the no layer thing, I might even consider using this program to make the final sketches for some of my pages. But while I'm considering that, it's one thing to use the program designed to work with this tablet, and it's another to see how it performs when using other programs for a prolonged period of time. I mentioned that I wanted this tablet to try comic work, and that's because I used to have a screen tablet that connected to my phone, and I used that a lot for sketching comic pages. But the main reason my comic hasn't been updated in a while is because that tablet stopped working. So I wanted to see if, like that other tablet, I could boost my comic productivity by using this. And oh boy, did it deliver. Firstly, I feel like my mindset shifted when I was sketching with this tablet. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but sketching pages on this felt so much more low pressure. Even when I was sketching backgrounds, I felt more focused, which is really hard to accomplish with my ADHD. I mostly used it for sketching, but after some futzing with some settings in Infinite Painter, I was also able to find out how to do line art in a way I like. I rely pretty heavily on Clip Studio's comic features for a lot of my comic processes, so I can't see this completely replacing my regular tablet. It is also nice to just have a larger screen with a less cramped user interface for when I'm making the more complicated pages. But I will say, since getting this tablet, I've done more work for my comic in the last month than the last 3 months before. I'm trying, I promise. It's entirely because of how convenient it is to work on pages compared to my computer. There are so many times where I'm like laying in bed where I feel like suddenly sketching some comic pages, but I don't want to go sit on my computer because I was sitting on my computer all day. The vertical format also works great for a webcomic format, so I wasn't getting too bogged down on the details for the less important panels. But at the same time, I could easily rotate the screen if I was working on a more important panel, so I can get the details I was looking for. I also want to mention that my niece comes over during the weekends, and she was very upset with me whenever I went to my room to work, so I ended up bringing this to the living room with me to get some work done while I was sitting on the couch, and she really enjoyed watching me draw. And while I was doing that, she, as toddlers do, took her open palm, placed it over my entire screen, and pushed down really hard. It made me panic because I was like, she's gonna break it or damage the screen or something. The video isn't even out yet, and I'm gonna have to explain to XPPen, who was super kind to me by sending me this free of charge, that I didn't think my 2-year-old niece would be curious by it and broke it before I even finished filming the video, and then they would hate me, and no company would ever want to work with me again. But then I took her hand off and the tablet was completely fine. So I can confirm that the Magic Notepad is at least a little bit toddler-proof. While I knew that I would personally use this mostly for my comic work, I also wanted to be sure to see if I could use it to make finished illustrations. Again, I was using Infinite Painter, but there's a number of programs that are compatible with it. I mentioned that I didn't really use the 3 different display modes, but I could see them being a feature artists can use during the sketching or line art phases, especially if you're using a program with a more colorful interface to give your eyes a bit of a break. When I was making this drawing as well as my comic pages, my program was crashing fairly frequently, but the problem is that I vaguely remember having this issue with this program before, and since I didn't have time to test a variety of programs, I can't exactly tell if this was an issue with the tablet or Infinite Painter. But I will say, even if it is a problem with the tablet, it's a fairly new product, and during the month or so that I've had it, I've already had a couple of system updates. PS, if you're curious about the updates, they were super quick and not troublesome at all. So I'm pretty confident that if it is a tablet thing, it'll be fixed since it seems like it's updating regularly. And if it's a program thing, then I'm gonna have to learn a new program, which sucks. But it is what it is, I guess. Luckily, I'm not a person who gets angry at stuff like this, so I found it to be more of a mild inconvenience than anything else, especially since my program does autosave. Other than that, though, every problem or limitation I came across while making this finished illustration was 100% because of the program I was using. I really wish I could go more in depth of what it was like to physically make this drawing, but truthfully, I just had a wonderful time drawing with this tablet, and other than the program crashing issue, which might even be unrelated to the tablet, I didn't have any issues at all. Again, it made drawing feel very low pressure, so I was able to just focus on having fun drawing something I like, and I felt like I could experiment more instead of being super strict with my drawing process. And as a result, I made a drawing that I absolutely love. I mentioned that I've had this tablet for about a month now, and I'm at a place where I'm very comfortable using it. So since I don't have much to say about the drawing itself, now would be a good time to talk about the pros and cons. First and foremost, the setup was incredibly easy and straightforward. I feel like I blew right past the setup earlier, but it really was as simple as following the prompts on the screen. Literally nothing remarkable happened with the setup, which is exactly what you want in a device because that means nothing is complicated or went wrong. I mentioned the tablet pen is magnetic and attaches to the side of the tablet. The magnet is very strong, and during the month I've had it, I've never had experiences with the pen falling out or anything like that. With my other tablet, I am constantly misplacing my pen, and I have 3 cats, so this is an amazing way to make sure I don't lose the pen. I also love that the tablet came with the case instead of selling it separately. The magnet on the tablet is also pretty strong, and like the pen, I didn't have any issues with the tablet coming loose. I will say there were a couple of times where I had the case completely folded over, and when I reached behind the tablet to get the front of the case so I can close it, I instead grabbed the tablet and pulled it out of the case. I don't know if that's a design flaw or a user flaw, but I wanted to be sure to mention it regardless. But overall, the case is very nice. I really like the size of the Magic Notepad because I feel like it has the perfect balance of being portable and giving you enough screen space to work with. Despite the fact that it's made to be taken with you just about anywhere, I never felt limited by the screen size. The tablet itself is very fast charging with a long battery life, but there were some days where I would use this tablet for nearly the entire day, and there were so few times where I would have to use it while it was plugged in. While I was taking a break to do something like make food or do some housework, I would plug it in before I left, and when I came back, it would either be mostly charged or fully charged. It's a very nice touch that the device comes with the XPPen Notes app. Again, it would have been very easy for them to make this an additional purchase, but instead made it something that came with the device and anyone who has it can use. And if your main use for this tablet is studying, writing, brainstorming, or doodling, you can get away with using just this app. But if you're looking to make more finished illustrations, all apps available on the Android App Store are compatible with the Magic Notepad. Like I mentioned, I tested both Infinite Painter and Clip Studio, but other apps like Krita, Medibank Paint Pro, and Ibis Paint are also compatible. I didn't really get into it, but you can also download media consumption apps like Crunchyroll and Hulu. I haven't used those with this tablet, but I have watched a lot of YouTube with this tablet, and I haven't had any issues with video or audio. So what are the cons? Starting off pretty minor, it didn't come with an artist glove. On one hand, this isn't advertised as strictly a drawing tablet, but on the other hand, gloves like that are useful even if you aren't drawing. I have a couple of drawing gloves, so I just picked one to keep with this tablet, but even with it, there were a few times where my hand touching the screen accidentally activated something, so I can't even imagine what it would be like using this for drawing without one. The website has gloves for pretty cheap, so if you're planning on buying this and want one, you can just add one to your cart real quick. And you can also make one by taking a basic glove and cutting the thumb, pointer, and middle fingers off, but it would have been a nice thing to include. Also pretty minor, it didn't come with a stand or anything to prop it up. I wanted to avoid using it without one since I already have horrible posture, so I had to dig out an old stand for a tablet that I don't use anymore. On the bright side, I can't imagine the average stand not working with this, but it still would have been nice for it to come with something, or if the case could double as a stand as some tablet cases do. A more major issue I had was with the buttons on the pen. While the button itself worked fine, it was the design of the pen that I found a bit frustrating. Typically, the buttons on a tablet pen protrude a bit so you can feel them with your fingers. This pen has a little divot, but it's not significant enough of a difference to how the rest of the pen feels. So there are a number of times where I accidentally pressed the button because the pen twisted around in my hand without me noticing. And on the flip side, there were a number of times where I wanted to use the button, but I couldn't find it with my finger, so I had to physically look down at the pen to find it, which was really frustrating if I was drawing in a not very well lit room. I tried adding some washi tape to it to basically frame where the button was, but that didn't really work, and the washi tape just kept peeling off anyways, so I think that's just something I'm gonna have to deal with. The last major thing is that there is a front camera, but no back camera. As an artist, I often take pictures of drawings that I do traditionally, either to turn them into a digital illustration or to share them to my Patreon or other social media accounts. Even from a non-art perspective, it could be beneficial to have one, since I imagine it could be useful for students and professionals alike from a variety of fields to take pictures of notes or textbook pages to import to whatever program they're using. Both on and off my channel, I've tried so many different tablets. And even if this one isn't advertised as just a drawing tablet, it's right up there with the best tablets I've ever used, and by far my favorite one I've ever made a video about. I have genuinely used this almost every day since it was sent to me. I've made some general sketches and doodles, and I do plan on using it as a weekly planner since it's a lot easier to make changes to a weekly plan on a tablet versus paper, but it completely changed my comic productivity for the better, and I even used it to plan out some drawn assets for my last video. I never went to college, and I don't ever plan on going to college, but I know a lot of my viewers are students. I can absolutely see how this is a life-changing device for students, especially art students. College can be pretty expensive, especially here in America, but this could be cheaper in the long run compared to the pens, notebooks, and other supplies you have to constantly replace, and be easier to carry since you can have all of your notes in one place while staying just as organized. And for all of those art students out there, this could also help save money by doubling as your main drawing tablet. And if you're not a student, I can still 100% recommend this for illustrators, comic artists, and general freelance artists. If you travel a lot, this is a very powerful tool when combined with Drive or cloud services like Google and Clip Studio. And if you're a homebody like me, it's just as nice to get away from your desk for a while and sit on the couch with a niece while she watches Baby Shark for the 12th time. I covered everything I could think to talk about in this video, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask them and I will do my best to answer. I want to thank XPPen again for sending this to me. I absolutely adore it, and I am looking forward to using it even more in the future. I'd like to give a quick thank you to all of my patrons for helping make this video possible, especially my tiers 3 and 4 members. Big shout out to Jules, Sammy Bear 127, Sugar Cookie 2, Nyoko Arts, Sage Rosado, It's Dorky Arts, Castle Riddle, Jamie, JDOS, Creatively Anxious, Dowsy Bones, Lauka 2, Jay Johnson, Fifi Brown, Bread, Fantastic Artist, Newly D, Joss, Blue Devil 4, Rin Rinny, Tina K, Oswin, Sammy the Boy Draws, Kenzie Blue, Flap, Caden, Anime Fan 110, Yuenamon, Art Iconics, Damaged Coda, Pretty Witchy Liachi, Diana Riano, Boo, Sam, Soap Boy Ray, The Snook Arts, Nisi Studios, Fog Scorpio, Max D. Wellington, Inverse Planet, Saki Saki, Zoe235, Cosmic Wolf 326, Meteor Shower 04, Mediocre at Worst, Caleb Sanchez, Dinks a Lot, T, Next Door Sketch, Small Bean Soda, June, Sayel, Maramaya, Kira, Eliezer, Avocado is my name, Alex, Google Doc, Rotting Rory, Ghastly Bow, Tanaya Hayworth, and Mowerbeck. Thank you all so much for the extra support. It really means a lot to me. And if you're interested in becoming a part of my Patreon, you can find the link in the description box below. I have pretty specific needs for a monthly/weekly planner, so I did exactly that and made a blank planner file that I can copy and edit with each month that I have pretty specific needs for a monthly/weekly planner, so I did exactly that and made a blank planner file that I can copy and edit with each month that... This is a tough sentence to say. I have pretty specific needs for a monthly/weekly planner, so I did exactly that and made a blank planner file that I can copy and edit with each month... And I made a blank planner file that I can copy and edit with each month... And I made a blank planner file that I can copy and edit with... I'm gonna cry. And I made a blank planner file that I can copy and edit with each month that goes by. Now, can I do that better? So I did exactly that and made a blank planner file that I can copy and edit with each month that goes by. Oh my god, I did it. Why was that so hard to say?